What's up, y'all? It's your host, Kesha, and I'm back again with another video. Today, we get to yap about the NBA season. Oh, it's come to an end. The regular season has officially ended, and we're going into the playoffs. We finally made it. Honestly, it always feels so long every single year, but you know what? I'm grateful. I'm excited to really get into it. Today, we'll be talking about the 3 and the 6 and the 4 and the 5 of the Eastern and Western Conference. And today, we get a chance to really break down these matchups and really see how it's going to play out, because I'm excited. I'm jovial. I feel like this is going to be a pretty outstanding playoff this year. And honestly, but to begin with, I want to mention, I feel like this year, out of all years, I feel like we should pause on the plane and just wipe it out. At least for the East, because this is ridiculous. The whole point of the play-in tournament was to give the 9th and the 10th seed an actual opportunity to compete, because back in 2020, I know 5 years ago, back in COVID, back in all them bad times, it was a lot. There was a lot of teams that had the chance to make the 8th seed and the 7th seed, but since the season got ended early, they had to just nip it in the bud for the safety of everybody. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying a good thing. That's a different podcast. We'll get to there. But back in 2020, the whole purpose was the 9th and the 10th seed. Oh, wait, never mind. I could be wrong. Okay, it might be out west where it's a really bad discrepancy. Oh, okay. This year was a tough one. This year was definitely a tough one. It's out west that the discrepancy was crazy. So back in 2020, they gave the 9th and the 10th seed a chance to compete in this new format where the 7th and 8th will play each other, and the 9th and 10th would play each other. The 7th and 8th team, whoever wins that game, gets sent up to make the 7th seed. And then the team that lost the 7 and 8 versus the team that won the 9 and the 10, they play each other to try and get the chance to get mollywopped by the 1st seed. They get put in the 8th. So that's basically how the whole format works. And oh my god. And it's interesting because of this year in particular. It feels like the drop-off hasn't been this drastic in a really long time. Like, one of the things that I like about the play-in, it gives teams that were going to tank a reason to not tank. It gives teams that have a disgruntled superstar, they'll be like, hey, all you got to do is try really hard this year, and you'll be able to at least sneak into the playoffs. You can get that 10th seed. You can get that 9th seed. I'm looking at you, the Chicago Bulls. I'm looking at you, the Atlanta Hawks. And y'all could maybe make a run. Look at the Miami Heat 2 years ago, where they were able to get all the way to the finals like nothing. So, hey, you get a chance to play. We get a chance for better ratings. Everybody wins. You get more money. I get more hoops. It works for everybody. But it got to the point where this season was a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. Oh my God. Wow. 5 teams with above 50 win records. And the 6th seed, 49 wins. The 7th seed, 48 wins. The 8th seed, 48 wins. That's crazy. And then let's go out east to see if it's the same craziness. The drop off is crazy. The drop-off is crazy. But I think that's because they're so heavily stacked on the 2 front runners. But that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm just glad we get a chance to dissect these teams. What do I want to talk about first? Honestly, I think as a Minnesotan, I want to talk about the Timberwolves versus the Lakers before we really get it all set in stone. Let me think. I think this year is the Lakers' best chance to go and try and get that ring. I'm not gonna hold you. The amount of, the type of run they've been going on these past 3-ish weeks, ever since Luka got to put on the Lakers, it feels like the Lakers are just different. A lot of teams that had their numbers, honestly, I think they would be excited to see a team like the Nuggets, or excited to see a team like the Warriors this year, where in previous years you would look at them and they're shaky here, they're shaky there, because their number one initiator was LeBron. And it's always been LeBron. And the thing is, I don't even think LeBron wants to be in that role anymore. So let me talk about Luka Doncic and what adding him does to their team. Adding Luka, you kind of have, once you add Luka to a team, you know you have a nuclear weapon for any series. A matchup nightmare for everyone. Because let's talk about that run that he did last year before he got traded. In the 2023-2024 playoffs, the Mavs with Luka Doncic went up against the Clippers. And when I tell you, from the beginning to the end, it felt like Luka wasn't just playing. It felt like Luka knew he was going to win before the game even started. One of the sayings in the NBA, you get your best player, I'm going to get my best player, and whoever blinks first, we going to figure out who's going to win this playoff series. And that's why you have to be so crucial by the type of players that you are trying out there. Because of having a player like Luka, he was consistently the best player on the court. And when you got put up against, actually, not even so much the fact that he's the best player. I'm gonna explain it like this. It feels like there's only a few players that actively elevate their game when the time gets tough. And he was playing up against, it was literally just hard. I'm pretty sure Kawhi was still injured at the time. And Paul George wasn't having that good of a series either, if he was even there. But that's not even the point. He goes, smacks them. Next series, he goes against the OKC Thunder, where they honestly should have won. The OKC Thunder should have won. They had far more guys to throw at everywhere. And not even to mention, the only problem that the OKC Thunder was having was the fact that they were young. And that was the undoing of them from the beginning, because if you could tell constantly the type of fouls that they were drawing over and over and over just felt like young, just the fact that they're young, and that was biting them in the butt the whole series. He goes, knocks them off the way, and then he goes to the Timberwolves. Keep in mind, the Timberwolves were on a great run themselves. They wouldn't just beat the Nuggets. They finally dethroned the Nuggets. Let me put that again. They made the Nuggets look not just incompetent, but incapable of beating them. No matter what Jokic was doing, no matter what Murray could do, they were able to play defense on them. And let me put another emphasis on the defense that they were throwing on Murray. They made all the guards just look pedestrian at best. There's a couple images there's a couple clips that made me chuckle. It turned into memes the way that they were doing the Nuggets over there. But that's not the point. Luka pulls up and said, okay. As long as you have a big, you can't beat me. You objectively can't beat me. I don't care who you throw out. And then it got to the point where they even try to throw McDaniels on him They threw McDaniels on him. And when I tell you, too small, they threw Ant on him. Too small. Nickeil Alexander, too small. They tried to throw, bro. They tried to throw Karl Anthony Towns on him for a bit. And when I tell you, he nearly blew up our team. That's the best way I can put it. He nearly just blew up our team. So having a guy like that on the Lakers, it kind of changes the way that they're able to play themselves in context to everybody else, right? And not even to mention, when you start adding the increase, let me not say the increase, let me say the improvements of some of their role players from years prior to actually turn to what they are now has been just beautiful to watch. Like there was a saying that was going around where Austin Reeves was the top 5 third options in the league. Honestly, I think that's a little bit high, but I understand what they meant. It's more so to say his scoring ability has improved to the point where you have to put at least your second best defender on him at all times, because of it literally just looks like target practice out there, just shooting into the ocean when he at least is on, right? And not even to mention the amount of extra guys that's able to take the ball out of LeBron's hand and he could has been such a blessing to watch. Like, I've been saying this for the longest. LeBron has been playing like the greatest role player of all time. Like, Seeing Bron play off ball makes me realize that we haven't got a chance to really see the full capabilities of a wing like him. Like, let's really be serious. Like, I used to think it was one of the biggest I thought he was always lying when he would come into interviews saying, "Yeah, man, I personally don't even want the ball that much. I just got to do what I got to do." Because for the longest, the saying was, no matter who the point guard is, the best point guard on the court is LeBron. And now it's just not true. It's just not true. He could actively defer to a player that wants the ball. Because that was the main issue when it was him and Anthony Davis. It always felt like he was still LeBron. He still needed to get the ball and go coast to coast every time, or at least give the ball to Anthony Davis. He doesn't have to give the ball to Luka because Luka already has the ball. And it's getting to the point where the amount of backdoors that I'm seeing LeBron get, and the fact that he doesn't have to play so hard on the ball, it gives him a chance to do so many different things else. Like, he gets to facilitate in ways that I feel like he actually wants to do. Because, like, I was just talking about the backdoor stuff, but it's always interesting when I watch him go play defense, because you've seen this 40-year-old man who's, I can't say he's just as athletic as he once was, because he's not. He objectively isn't, right? He's a tad less, just a little bit less. But putting a guy like that on Gary Payton, Draymond Green, Lou Dort, where he could actually just turn up the defense when he wants. You see, for a stretch, once Luka got there, they were clowning them because they're like, "Hey, y'all defense is about to be terrible. Y'all aren't going to be able to do much against these top teams that are able to target a lot of your players." And then a week in, they had the best defense in the league. Ooh, that is not. And I started to look at the way that they play defense. One of their schemes is basically, I'm going to leave whatever bad shooter y'all got, and y'all will just have to force us to guard him. And then the way that they play defense, let me try it again. The way they play defense is basically, whoever is not a shooter, who's a non-shooter, you're a non-shooter, leave him. We're just not going to interact with them. Y'all, if he beats us, he can beat us, right? If Aaron Gordon beats us, it'd be like that. But one thing's for sure, two things for certain, we are going to send the double. We're going to send the help. Because of one of their problems that they do have, you get to realize that their center position will need reinforcements, because having Jackson Hayes there is already but y'all are having to do what y'all have to do. You know, let's look at their depth chart. Let's look at their depth chart. So from Jackson Hayes to Dory Finney-Smith to Trey Jemison III. That's not the best. I will say that is not the best. That is not the best. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do in later series, if they're even able to beat a team like the Timberwolves. Because there's some teams out west that have a couple of bigs that you gotta like really worry about, but not a lot of teams have the offensive power as this Lakers squad do. Because I'm not even to mention the fact that Dalton Knecht is looking. Dalton Knecht would be the rookie of the year if the Lakers needed a forward. I'll put it like that. If they needed a 2 or a 3, he would be the rookie of the year. But just they don't need him really. They don't need any more ball handlers. They're already set on that position. The Minnesota Timberwolves. The first thing I got to say about y'all is I feel like the Minnesota Timberwolves has made the best out of an insane situation. They make it past the reigning champions. They beat the Nuggets. They get rid of the Nuggets. They destroy. You know what? Let's start this over. I feel like making the best out of a bad situation doesn't even give them enough credit for what they pulled off last year. Because let's sit back and see what they did last year. They were able, one, sweep the Suns. Literally, I think you know what? The Timberwolves might have ended the Phoenix Suns as we know it, the way that they did them last year. And then they go and beat the Nuggets. Keep in mind, I'm a Minnesotan. I didn't think y'all were going to get it done, but y'all got it done. Y'all made it happen. So all I got to say is they have made the best out of a bad situation because they went and traded their number 2 guy, the guy that was the glue guy, the heart of Minnesota, and Karl Anthony Towns sent him away to bring back Julius Randle. Honestly, I was talking to my friends. We all came together and we came to the realization this year is a wash. Whatever happens is what happens. And the fact that they actually made the playoffs, I will say it is nice. I'll say it is nice. So I'm not mad at it. So I have to figure out, how do they actually match up to this Los Angeles Lakers squad? Keep in mind, underdog isn't even a good statement to try and describe what position these Timberwolves are in right now. Because I'm out here, I'm talking to my coworkers. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Lakers in 5, it was a good season, And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let y'all know it is not that simple. I promise you it's not that simple. This team has went through adversity. Y'all have no idea what they've been working on. Adding Julius Randle to a squad is, 1, interesting, is 2, surprising, and 3, honestly, I thought that was the bad move, but watching the way that they're actually melding together makes me feel like we might be onto something real, right? First, I want to talk about the jumps a lot of these players have made before we talk about the lacks that's been coming on from this year. So, 1, let's talk about Anthony Edwards for a little moment. A guy that doesn't need to be explained, a guy that doesn't need to be introduced. Anthony Edwards has been able to jump his play from what he was last year to what he was this year. Because I had a couple of critiques over his game. 1, I thought that he would kind of forget that he's the superstar of the team, where he'll just like slowly start backing off to the side of the court and just not wanting to get the ball, or not even so much not wanting the ball, more so forgetting he could be like, hey, give me the ball. So that's a good thing. That's the thing that he improved on this year. Number 2, he led the league in threes. He hit like 320 of them Johns. 320 threes in 1 season. 1 season. Wow. So let's talk about the 3-pointers. Let's talk about the 3-point shooting for a second. One of my worries is that he would never be able to actually learn how to shoot, because of one of the things you get in basketball is you're either one of the things you realize with a lot of guards in the NBA is if they're athletic, you better just hope their knees just keep on going, because when their athleticism wanes, they will not have a jump shot to be able to lean back on. That's not the truth for this guy. It's turning into the point where his shooting is nearly as valuable or more valuable than his athleticism to begin with, which is a huge tax to be getting, because of out of nowhere, he starts shooting like 10 to 12 threes a game like it's nothing, like he's excited to take the threes. And that's what's really surprising me, because of the amount of bad shots that are turning into good shots because he's shooting has changed the way, and not even so much changed the Timberwolves. It changed the type of schemes they could run, because one of the things that they were doing last year when they had Karl Anthony Towns, they were able to bring extra shooting from everywhere because they had a big that could stretch out to the 3-point line, and he was actually a good shooter. So removing him and bringing in Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns, not only will I say it was a good trade, I will say it fills up some of the needs that we've been looking for a long time, having more guards that are able to take the weight off of our superstar, right? So watching the fact that we've been able to incorporate so much more shooting than I thought that we were able to has not only opened up Edwards' game, because once every 3 games, we're getting a poster. That's what they'll say. One every three. He want to dunk on somebody. So that is a good helping. Because one of my big problems I was seeing, I was like, it might get to a point where they're trying to force him to shoot because they're going to back off of everybody to the point to try and focus primarily on him. And it hasn't really been working. I gotta be honest, it just hasn't been working. And keep in mind, the Timberwolves are the 6th seed. But to start the season, they had a pretty bad stretch. So this isn't even truly where they would have bottomed out. In all honesty, if they were playing the way that they were playing now in the beginning, we might be looking at a 2-3 seed in all honesty. And one of the things that I'm realizing, especially adding a guy like Julius Randle, let's talk about Julius before we get to the young guys, because I just peeped something. Boom or bust is an understatement when you get to play styles like Julius Randle. Let me explain. Boom or bust in the sense that you want a guy that's able to take offensive pressure off of your other players, but you also don't always love the type of shots they are taking. A lot of the shots end up being heat checks. And you can only live off of so many heat checks before it starts really damaging the type of schemes and type of players that you can even have around him to begin with. At first, I was looking at Julius Randle as a guy that isn't really able to shoot, but he's not a shooter, but he's a scorer. That's the best way I could put it, right? But a couple of these games, he's been hitting them. He's honestly just be hitting them, going from like 6 or 7 from 3 to a clean, I think he's shooting around like 34 to 38%. That is passable. We can use that. And it feels like throughout the season, he's not even so much fitting into what the Timberwolves are doing, but he's been able to create a lane that's shows out the good parts in Julius Randle and not just highlights the bad, right? Because that was one of the problems with when he was on the Knicks. It always felt like he was like forcing his shots into what the Knicks were trying to do. But now it feels like, no, we're just adding on a couple of these different looks. Y'all aren't able to keep setting these same defensive schemes at us because we have a game breaker on occasion like Julius Randle. So I've been really high on Julius Randle this season. And then moving on to a couple of their other young guys, bro. Jaden McDaniels cannot keep getting away with this. If Julius Randle is not a first team all defensive player, I'm gonna be so upset. I am gonna be so angry. I'm gonna be so mad because he's been able to not only guard 1 through 5, and keep in mind, we've been throwing out 1 through 5 pretty willy-nilly over these past few 6 years. No, he's truly a 1 through 5 type of guy. You could throw him on bigs and he's cooling, right? Because he's listed at a clean 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", but in reality, he's closer to 7 foot than he is 6'9". Let's really be serious right now. And then there's some reports that came out where it's like, oh yeah, no, he's got a little bit of a growth spurt. So we've been able to keep our size, because that's one of the problems that I was having when we got rid of Cat, because like one of the reasons why we were able to do so good in this playoff run in the first place was because we were able to throw out that two big lineup with a whole bunch of different schemes and a whole bunch of different looks that we could throw at literally every single team in the league, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, when we do go to the playoffs, are we going to be able to keep up this defensive intensity that we will need to? Because throughout the year, we saw a whole lot of lulls when it does get to the point of trying to score. Because if it's going to be firefights, I do not want them. I don't think we are set up to be able to be a firefighting team, because of the amount of options that we have to throw at these different teams are few and far between. Because I do not want a series where we are not just forcing Ant to get a whole bunch of points, but we're forcing ISOs to be the main bucket getting machine that we're running with. And let's talk about this match. Let's finally get to this long awaited match between the Lakers and the Timberwolves. It's going to be a matchup of intensity versus consistency. That's probably gonna be the main things that I'm gonna try and harp on at this moment, right? Because of when you get to a team like the Lakers, you are going to be forced to try and slow down at best their two guys with LeBron and Luka, right? We're seeing LeBron take less of an offensive load where he's like actively taking more shots, and this is more so we're more so seeing a whole bunch more of what Luka can do in the context of the sets to the sets they are running with JJ Redick, right? Because we're seeing a whole lot of guard centric and not so much ISO heavy, but it's off the first catch and go, off the first move you have to go, off the first. If it's not a pick and roll ISO from Luka, you are seeing a whole bunch of teammates that are able to go on command, from Austin Reeves to LeBron to Rui Hachimura to Luka himself and Dalton Connect when he's out there, because of when I'm pretty sure Dalton's averaging probably around 10 points when he does get on the court, because he just knows how to score, right? So the Timberwolves are going to be on the defense this whole season. That's this whole playoff matchup, because of they're going to have to figure out this Luka game early, because if Luka is getting his consistent 32, 8, and 7, we will lose. The Timberwolves that's just what's gonna happen, because of this Ant Luka matchup isn't what I truly want. I don't want to see them going head to head where it's like Ant has to try and match Luka or Luka's trying to match Ant, right? Because of I don't think Edwards is set up for doing that, right? I want it to be trying to ISO and trying to get LeBron into as many actions as absolutely possible, because I'm trying to get rid of the Jared Vanderbilts on their teams than anything else, because we have a couple ISO guys, but if we're making it hard for their tertiary and secondary players to actually be involved in the game, I feel like that's where we're going to really, really capitalize, because of even though they have a whole bunch of scoring threats from literally all across their court, they do not have the setup to match up with the amount of guard defenders that a team like the Timberwolves have, and they're able to actually throw at them in a consistent basis, right? And let's switch it over to the Lakers. The way that the Lakers are going to have to defend the Timberwolves is going to be a heavy emphasis on not just slowing Edwards down, because we all know that they're going to try and send as much help and as much coverage as we can to get the ball out of his hands, right? But I think it's going to fall down to the most important player, Julius Randle. Actually, Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo, they're going to really have to show out this playoff series specifically, because of it's going to turn into a lot of trying to get points where we can. So Donte DiVincenzo and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are going to have to hit their shots when they are open, because it's going to be a lot of kick and pitch, because they're going to try and swarm the lane as consistent as they can. And not even to mention, I feel like Rudy Gobert, he had the last game versus the Jazz, he put up, I don't think it was the Jazz, I don't remember what team it was, but he had about 28 and 15, the most points he's ever scored in his life. He was getting buckets like a mug. And it's getting to the point where trying to involve Rudy Gobert is also going to be very important, because you don't get a chance to see him being aggressive as you really should be, because if he's a 7-footer that has to try and force his way to get the ball. And it gets to the point where he's hustling. He's trying to be consistent, but they don't really run plays for a guy like Rudy Gobert because his bag isn't as quote unquote deep as it should be. Where if he's literally not right under the rim, it's kind of hard for him to like get the ball in a sense. And I feel like you could take that into the Timberwolves' advantage because as long as we're getting him to use his motor and continue to run and continue to sprint, they're not going to be able to score on us on the interior as long as we keep him down low. So trying to run a lot of drop and trying to keep him engaged is going to be the main things that the Timberwolves should do. But I think in the Clippers and Nuggets is a matchup I did not think I needed. The Clippers and Nuggets look like out of all four matchups I'm gonna be talking about today, I feel like they're gonna be the most enjoyable easily. That's gonna be my take because of we are finally gonna see Kawhi healthy. Like I don't think y'all know how much I've been holding on to that sentence this whole year because the Clippers have been playing and they've been trying and they've been going and they've been quiet. I'm going to put that emphasis. They have been quiet because they've been forced to play. They have been forced to take all the jokes. They've been forced to stay in the shadows for so long. And the fact that everything is coming to fruition right now, from when they lost Paul George to having to keep... They lost Paul George. They lost Russ. They had to make James Harden run the team. They had to minute restrict Kawhi Leonard and slowly ramp him up. So even when they were going on win streaks, even when they were beating teams they had no business beating, they still had to just breathe. So the fact that I'm watching Kawhi put up 30 points in the last game of the season, I'm watching Harden put up 30 points in the last game of the season. Norman Powell is looking like an all-star, and there's Zubac is also hooping like a sub all-star. They have so many players on this team that has gone through so much adversity to get to this moment right now. They have set themselves up to not only win this playoff series against the Nuggets. I'm gonna give my prediction right now. I think the Clippers win in 4. No, that's too much. I got excited. The Clippers is 6. I would say the Clippers is 6. I got a little excited. But it feels like not only are they not only are they firing on all cylinders, but it seems like they're running schemes that they weren't able to run in past seasons. Like even when they went and picked up Ben Simmons, I thought, why would you even waste your time? And he's even starting to ramp himself up. All right, I'm gonna sit back and talk about this team real quick. Let me talk about this Clippers team. So their starting 5 is so underrated to me, right? So you got Harden at the 1. He was an all-star this year. He's averaging like 22 and like 10-ish, give or take, right? And then here's the guy I really want to talk about. Chris Dunn has been moving so crazy. His motor has been pushing past a whole bunch of eyes. And the fact that I feel like the NBA needs to put more emphasis on defense, especially in the highlights, because of the amount of times that I'm watching and I'm like, how did you even get there? Is insane when we start getting to a guy like Chris, Dunn. Even this last game against the Warriors, where he was picking up a whole bunch of fouls, he was still making it almost impossible for Curry to actually get a rhythm. Keep in mind, he was able to hold Curry to like 18 points into the fourth quarter, and he was shooting I'm not even going to say like 18 points is not crazy, but I will say if you're watching the game, every single point was definitely earned. And not even to mention, majority of those points in and of themselves weren't even on Chris Dunn to begin with. Chris Dunn has been hooping. And it's getting to the point where it's like his motor it might be one of the better. It might be one of the best in the league in all honesty, because it feels like he doesn't stop. And honestly, I'm just excited for him because of. I'm more so excited for him because of he's had a tough NBA career because of when he was in the Timberwolves, everyone off the bat just gave up on him, because keep in mind he was a high draft pick. He got shipped off, and the fact that he's finally found a home in the upstart Clippers has been so good to watch. And then jumping down to Norman Powell, like I was mentioning earlier, he has been hooping. To start the season off, he said when they asked, what are you going to do with Paul George being traded? And he's like, we're going to hoop. I'm going to do what Paul George was doing. I'm going to out-hoop him. And you know what? Let me look at his stats. And he ended up the season with 21, 3, and 2 on 48% shooting from the field. That is nice. I just saw something. When he plays against the Denver Nuggets, he puts up 27.8 every single game, shoots 48% from 3 and 53% from the field. That is nice. That is we gotta really be serious. Let's look at the way let's see how they play against the Nuggets. So Harden puts up 23-9, shoots 33% from 3, 39% from the field. So he doesn't play that well against them. Let's look at Kawhi Leonard. Let's see what he's been up to. He puts up 21 and 3. 40% from 3, 49% from the field. So he might be setting himself up to play really well against them. And not to mention the backups. Let's talk about the backups real quick. I feel like the Clippers might have a top 5 second string squad in the league. That's really what it looks like, because they have a whole bunch of guys that's like, oh yeah, no, I can play. Like, if you need me to, I will do all the dirty work all the time, and I will love it. Because let's look at their second string. Bogdan, Amir Coffey, Derek Jones Jr., Ben Simmons, and Chris Dunn. That is a great starting 5, at least on the defensive end. Whew. And not even to mention the Nicholas Batums of the world, the Bogdan Bogdanoviches of the world. So they have a pretty good roster, and I feel like they're able to match up really well with the Denver Nuggets because of all the teams in the playoffs this season. I feel like the one team that's been on a dastardly free fall is easily the Denver Nuggets. Even though Jokic has been putting up probably one of the best NBA seasons of all time, he's not going to win the MVP. It'd be like that. But it feels like their team is trying their best to piss him off. Not even to mention the fact that they went and got rid of their head coach, their NBA champion head coach, Mike Malone. They've gotten rid of, oh my God. When I sit back and think about their finals run, I get a little bit upset because they've had so many good players on their team. Not even to mention a guy like Bruce Bowen, right? They have got rid of so many glue guys, so many defensive guys that they just said, hey, it doesn't matter. We're just going to drop and go. We're going to figure it out as the season goes on. We are going to pick up our offense to make up for our dropping in defense. But that's not how the league works. That's not a good thing. I'm sorry. That just doesn't play out well. Especially when you get to the point of trying to match up with a lot of these teams, because I just think that's going to be their biggest strife. And that's my biggest strife for me, because I don't think we're going to realize how bad of a matchup it's going to be to have Jokic being the main offensive engine and having to hold down the defense on the other end. Because not even to mention, the only defensive guy that they have on their team that's like, I like defense, I will play defense, I love to play defense, is Aaron Gordon. And Russell Westbrook. That is it. So that's the only guys. And if that is what you're going to bet all your cards on, especially defensively, that is not a good plan. I don't know what they're thinking. I do not know what they're thinking, because I'm not even saying that you should go out your way and sign a whole bunch of defensive specialists. You should be able to switch 1 through 5. You're supposed to do da-da-da-da. But my thing is, when you have so many players on your team that are leaking defensively, you kind of do need to have them. You kind of do. Because it was like, y'all got rid of KCP. Y'all got rid of Bruce Bowen. That's not good. That's not good. There's so many lacking defensive positions on this team. Makes me so worried for how they plan to generate offense. Because the main thing that they've been doing is the Murray, Jokic pick and rolls, Murray and Jokic playing off each other, MPJ playing off Jokic, Aaron Gordon playing off Jokic, Christian Brown playing off Jokic, and my thing is, the way that they naturally play, they like to have a hub and have everyone else work around that. That's kind of the reason why. That's kind of the reason why a guy like Russell Westbrook has had a resurgence in his careers recently, because he's been able to basically do what Jokic does, but like from the point guard position instead of the center position, which is kind of like, it's a little faulty here and there, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get an engine where you got an engine, right? So I'm sitting back and I'm worried because of, it's not the fact that they're going to slow down Jokic. That's going to be the least of their worries. They're going to slow down everybody else. Like, not even to mention the fact that, what's his face? Not even to mention the fact that Jamal Murray has been, I won't say he's been going through a slump, but I think that I haven't been that high on Jamal Murray. Let me start that off there. Let me start it off there. I feel like a player like Jamal Murray kind of gets elevated when you start adding on a guy like Jokic that's able to give you perfect shot after perfect shot after perfect shot, right? And he kind of comes alive when he goes to the playoffs, but that's because that the teams that he's been playing in the playoffs aren't really set up to be able to guard them, really. But a team like the Clippers kind of get excited when you see a team like that, right? When you see a player like that. Like, even when you look at his shooting splits and his points per game against the Clippers, he puts up 26 on 50-50 shooting, which is really good. Which that's like the creme de la creme from 3 at least. But my whole thing is, if they throw Chris Dunn on him the whole series, well, let me put it like this. They have the ability to pseudo copy what the Timberwolves did to the Nuggets last year, where they're able to send a whole bunch of tall guards to just consistently hound them. They're going to be lucky. They're going to be excited if Jamal Murray is able to get Harden matchups. That's going to be their best case scenario. But my whole thing is, Harden's a pretty good defender. He's not a cone as much as everybody tries to tell y'all. So y'all are going to be forced to bank on one player and one player alone in Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic has been killing it this year. He's been averaging a 29-12 and 10 trip dub. The first player since his teammate Russell Westbrook. Keep hooping, Russ. We love you. And let's see how he plays against the Clippers. One of the craziest things about this season, literally everybody has the same record. The Clippers have a 50-32 record, and the Denver Nuggets has a 50-32 record. That is insane, right? I'm a little bit worried on if Jokic is just going to be like, you know what? I think I'm just going to have to carry this team. Like, I will be the engine. I will be the one that's doing majority of the work. Because we've seen him. He doesn't really like to play that role. He would rather be a team sport because it's difficult to be the one that's just consistently pushing the margins. He's just the one that's optimal, where the best case scenario is a Jokic pass to a Jamal Murray, because if he's worried that if everybody is not firing on all cylinders, it's going to be tough for him to score 60, 70. Because the one game that he did put up 60, it was in a loss. He lost still. He still lost against the Timberwolves. So it's going to be tough. But honestly, I think that it's going to be the Clippers in 6, Clippers in 5, Clippers in 6 at most. The Bucks versus the Indiana Pacers is going to turn into one of the rivalries that we look back on in fondness. And honestly, my favorite part is the juxtaposition of these two teams. And it's getting to the point where this opposites attract method is just it's a beautiful thing, just based off the way that they set up their teams, right? So the Indiana Pacers have set their team up where it's become a democracy of men and the importance of each player in context to the team's success, because every single player on the Indiana Pacers is valuable. It's immensely important in the way that they're able to interact with each other, and not even to mention with the other team, because of it's getting to the point where every single player on their team plays. Every single player is scoring. The highest scoring player on that team right now is Pascal Siakam, right? He's putting up I think at most 20 points. And the amount of players on that team right now that's averaging 10 points, well, let's say 8 points or more, is insane. Hold on, let's look at this. I'm going to look at how spread out this scoring is amongst this team. Pascal Siakam, 20 points. Halliburton, 18 points. Mathurin, 16 points. Turner, 15 points. Naismith, 12 points. Obi Toppin, 10 points. Nembhard, 10 points. Connell, 9 points. Is that Isaiah Jackson? Isaiah Jackson. Oh, that's crazy. Isaiah Jackson, 7 points. On and on and on. Literally every single player on this team besides... Wait, is that Jahlil Okafor? LOL. Besides Jahlil Okafor, Tristan Newton, and James Johnson average at least 2 points or more. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in double. You know what? 8 players in double digits, because McConnell is at 9 points a game. That is wild in comparison with the Milwaukee Bucks, where it's literally such a top heavy team. It's insane to the point of what's his face, Giannis averaging 28 a game, and then it's Giannis at 28 points a game. Then it's Lillard at 25-ish a game. And then it's Bobby Portis around 17, and then everybody else, which is an insane way to... Which is a wild way to be able to compare these two teams, because it was for the longest, every NBA team was set up where you have your superstar and then their secondary guy, and then everybody else is a role player that is helping those two guys get majority of the points, majority of the share of the pie, right? But then when you look at the Pacers, it's everybody can get it. Anybody is allowed to get it, which is part of the reason why they're able to score such crazy amounts of points, because of their superstar isn't even a scorer. Their superstar doesn't even want to score the ball, and that's a wild way to run your team. Because the way that I thought they were going to set it up, I thought it was going to be Halliburton would be the guy that set it up for everybody, but he's still going to want to score the ball. But this guy's ego is nowhere to be found. He doesn't want to score on your guy. He doesn't want to dunk on your player. He doesn't want to do all this extracurricular stuff. He just wants to win. And the thing that gives him the best chance of doing that is if everybody is engaged and playing. Because one of the things you realize, not just offensively, they're working as a unit. Defensively, they're able to Let me put it like this. Because they don't play that much defense. I'll put it like this. They have set their offense up in a way where their offense is their defense. As long as they just keep the ball running and moving and running, with a guy like Napier and Mathurin, they're scoring from everywhere, which is going to be so interesting when the playoffs actually do start against the Bucks, because they've done this before. They've seen them. And not to mention, the Bucks aren't going to have they're not going to have Dame. Dame is going to play maybe if this goes to a game 7. Then he might show up. But I honestly, I wouldn't count on a Damian Lillard sighting in the 2025 playoffs. I'm not going to lie to you. I will not lie. Because the way that they're going to have to set up Giannis to face his team, he might need to force himself to get 40 to 50 points a game, which I will say he is very, very capable of doing, because of you don't see a guy like Giannis much, because of he's one of those players that lets you know that he's the strongest player on the court, and everybody around will be forced to deal with it if they like it or not, right? And then, not even to mention, the secondary and tertiary guys is going to be forced to show out this specific playoff series. If Gary Trent and KPJ don't blossom this playoffs, they will lose. I'm just saying that right now. They will lose because of their guard play right now is really, really lagging. And it feels like ever since KPJ got moved from the bench to the starting lineup, it feels like he has something to prove, more or less. It feels like he has something to prove, more or less, because of the type of shots and the way that he's able to insert himself into the game has been such a joy to watch, because you tend to miss that with a lot of these players, where they're trying to toe the line between forcing their way in and trying to figure out what shots to take and on and on, where a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. is like, oh yeah, no, I'm set up in this position to take all these shots, because if he knows that Dame isn't coming, he knows Damian Lillard is not coming back, right? And then let's switch it over to Portis, right? He has been out for a good amount of time for alleged uses here and there, right? He has slotted himself right back into this roster like he's never left. And it makes me realize this team has been so injury prone. So many things have gone wrong for this team. And then not even to mention the way that their coach has been trying their best to kind of set these guys up to win, where Doc Rivers, I feel like he gets a lot of hate. Justified hate, sure. Unjustified, sure. But one thing that you do notice, he is trying his best. Oh my God, he's definitely trying his best. I don't know if they're just limited in the amount of sets that they can run with a guy like Giannis, because of he rarely wants to be played like a big. He gets majority of his buckets off the ISO, off the catch, if it's a pick and roll, he's picking and popping, which is insane to me. But hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? And it's kind of hard to watch, because of this game is definitely going to be a slugfest. It will be. Let me put it like this. The Bucks want it to be a slugfest, because of they don't have the firepower, just objectively. Their firepower is literally just Giannis, and they're lucky because Giannis has got to the point where he's improved his facilitating to the point where you have to be aware of what is going on while he's playing, right? If you're turning your back on Giannis, it gets pretty dastardly, because the thing that he's trying to do, he wants you to only send one. He wants you to try and ISO him. You know you can't ISO him, so you're going to send guys, right? And he's improved his facilitating to the point where he's unlocking these different players' full potentials, in a sense. He has had a relatively steady amount of guard and forward play this season, where they're not all-stars. They're not like sub-all-stars or like really too talented players, but there's a lot of serviceable players that are playing right now where with the addition of Giannis, you get a guy like Taurean Prince that tends to play above his pay grade far too frequently for a player of his caliber. Because of like, I'm randomly watching, let's say, a Bucks game, and out the corner of my eye, I'm like, wait, hold on. Who's that just shot 4 threes, made all 4? Is that Taurean Prince? Our Taurean Prince? Whole time it is. Kuzma has been playing like he's trying to at least win a chip. He needs one. Like, it's getting to the point where we've watched Kuzma evolve ever since we've seen him. From being a goofy guy to being a guy that really doesn't care too much about the game, to winning a ring, to going to a desolate team like the Wizards, and then upping his stock to the point where teams genuinely want him. Now he's getting over to the Bucks, where it's like, hey, we are trying to build a championship here with our superstar. We brought you here to make Giannis happy. Please show out. And usually when you give that type of pressure onto some players, especially younger players like that, there tends to be a fold in the Bucks pretty quickly without people even realizing why they're folding, right? They're like, basically the light's getting too bright for a lot of players. So the fact that they've been able to keep them afloat, even though a guy of Dame's caliber hasn't been playing, has been very nice to see. So let's see how this goes, right? Playoff series. My prediction is, I hate to say it, I think it's Pacers and 6. I'm going to say Pacers and 6, right? Yeah, Pacers and 6. And my whole thing is, I feel like there's going to be so much scoring from so many different facets that it's going to be really hard for the Bucks to be able to keep up with them. Knicks versus Detroit. I think the New York Knicks has officially lost the point. They have lost the plot of hooping, because I have had enough of. I looked at the minutes played of these players, of the starting 5 of the New York Knicks. The average starting 5 minutes is 36.5 minutes a game. There are 48 minutes a game. Please, can y'all stop it? Because if we've been getting on y'all behind every single year, day after day, month after month, season after season, keep in mind, this is the best at it. This is the best. I'm already stuttering. That's how frustrated I am. This is the best the New York Knicks have gotten at time management for their team. And it's getting to the point, we do not need to be playing these players the way that we are. You cannot be running a guy like Jalen Brunson like that ragged. And it's getting to the point where we're getting complaints from guys like Mikal Bridges, where he's been playing 82 games a season. Every single day of his career, he has never missed a game. And he's saying he's running them rampant. And not even to mention the amount of practices that needs to be put in for this team. And then you get to on the court and you have their bench players just sitting there, just collecting dust. There's nothing that they're doing. And it's getting to the point where players are like, yeah, no, I don't even want to go there, because I know I'm not even get that much minutes if I do end up traded there, if I end up anywhere by that court, because of they're going to only play Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridge, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, and then who's their fifth guy? Who's their fifth guy? And Josh Hart. They're only going to play Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, and Karl Anthony Towns. And everybody else, I'm Sorry. And my whole thing is, honestly, I think that's part of their main. That's probably one of the main problems of the way that their roster is constructed to begin with, because of they objectively have a top 5 starting 5. It might be OKC, then Boston, Cleveland, maybe Lakers. And honestly, in my opinion, that's it. In my opinion, that's it when it comes to a starting 5. That each and every single one of them are like really good, right? But then you get to their bench where you're, one, not playing them. 2, when your starters are tired, they're forced to try and continue to compete with these teams that are actively rotating people in. And keep in mind, I haven't even talked about the Detroit Pistons yet. That's how upset I am right now. It's getting to the point where the more things that they try, it feels like they're just stuck in a rut because of they probably have one of the best glue guys in the league in Josh Hart, right? Where they're using him as a jack of all trades, Swiss Army knife, Draymond Green type of guy, where he's defending the best player and he's also able to get you a clean 12-ish, 13-ish, 15-ish points, right? But I feel like we need to be able to set this team up for success when we actually do play these better teams, where we're actually able to use our bench players, actually able to get the diamond in the rough. Because of while I'm looking at this roster, it seems like they go 6 men deep and everybody else, I promise you're not getting no minutes. Maybe 7 with Precious Achiuwa, but running a team like that I feel like it just doesn't work. Especially we've seen what happened anytime that they played against the top three teams in the league. If it's the OKC Thunder, Boston Celtics, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, I don't think they've beaten them yet all year. And my thing is, if you traded away your future to go get Karl Anthony Towns and you can't beat those 3 teams, that's worrisome. That's really, really worrisome. And not even to mention, if your roster only goes so far, you start to see the problems like what happened last year, where players just start dropping like flies because it's like, yeah, bro, I've used my wheels every single day. I've played 1,000 minutes this month, and there's nothing that's it. That's just that's just it. So when Detroit plays the New York Knicks, I feel like it's going to be a testament to see what if this New York Knicks trade was even worth having in the first place, right? The way that the New York Knicks like to run their squad, they have a tendency to spam this pick and roll with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, where it's like a pick or poison type of thing, where, in my opinion, is probably one of the better pick and roll duos in the league, because of you have a player like Jalen Brunson you don't see it too frequently, but a guy that size being able to run an offense, or a guy that size being able to compete with other players like Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, a Stephen Curry, a Nikola Jokic when it comes to offensive output. Because we've gotten to the point where, honestly, I thought Jalen Brunson was I want to say a fluke, but he's gotten to the point where his consistency has made him a force to be reckoned with every single game. You can't just put a so-so defender on him. You actually have to put on your best show every single night. But the main thing is, as the game goes on, you tend to miss out on a lot of these other players when you do have to call upon them, right? And having a guy like Karl Anthony Towns gives you the type of spacing that you really need, because they run 5 out every single play. Like, if it's not an offensive mismatch off the start with a guy like a Karl Anthony Towns, where he's posting up against these smaller guys, you get to see where a mismatch they mismatch hunts probably on the better half of the league. Because it gets to the point where if you're trying to go all out to try and stop Jalen Brunson, you tend to miss out on a guy like Josh Hart, where he's able to throw in a whole bunch of extra points here and there. There was a meme going out where it's like Josh Hart is the Carmelo Anthony of Draymond Greens, where it's like, yeah, he is like that. He's able to show up as a star amongst these other players, right? And the more that you watch the Knicks, the more that you realize the main reason why they're not able to beat the better teams is after Jalen Brunson gives you your scoring, and then Karl Anthony Towns your second option for scoring, you kind of run out of you run out of a bunch of punches to make, because of the whole point of getting Mikal Bridges was to be able to give you a guy that's able to be a 3-and-D, but still give you a rough 23-ish points, because he was coming from Brooklyn where he was averaging around 23-ish, give or take. And now they're saying, hey, you're going to be the third option. You're going to have less pressure. You're going to be able to perform, basically. But it's kind of been hard to get him into the groove. He's been heating up recently, but this first round matchup is probably going to tell how this team is going to be able to move for the next 3-4-ish years, right? Let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons has been absolutely garbage for the past long time since Blake Griffin. They've been bad since Blake Griffin. But this year, it's been different. It's been different. They drafted Asar. Let me start that over. So the Detroit Pistons this year, it's felt different. Let me put it like that. It's felt different, right? So you draft Asar Thompson. He's offensively challenged, but he's still able to show so much, at least defensive potential. Him and his twin brother is looking like they're going to be on the all defensive team if they keep moving the way they're moving. Because of, I don't know what's happening, but you're able to anchor a team's defense around these two, around a guy like Asar. Let's just talk about Asar for now, because of the way calling him an athlete is such an understatement in my opinion, because it's getting to the point where the amount of wow plays I'm seeing every single day off this guy, it's second to none. It's second to none. You got to start looking at a guy like Giannis to start seeing this teleportation act that he's been doing recently. But Cade Cunningham has been showing up and showing out recently. There have been so much talk that he's been probably one of the worst number one overall draft picks in the past 10 years, blah, blah, blah. And this year, he's been hooping. He's been putting up 26 a game. And it's getting to the point where he's been hooping like a superstar. And it's been surprising, because of in earlier years when he first got drafted, it always felt like there was Cade and he was trying his best and nothing was fruitful off of the efforts that he was trying to make. And it was a thing of their role players and their tertiary guys kind of seem to get in the way-ish. But this year, I feel like with a bunch of their rookies and a couple of their veterans that's on their team right now, everyone has been able to grow together at a rate that was pretty surprising if you look back on just what they were last year when they were going on 27 points, 27 game loss season type of thing, or 28 game losing streak. It was crazy. But now let's switch it back to some of their players. So some of the players that's been growing into real guys, like Ron Holland has been useful. Jalen Duren, Asar, Isaiah Stewart surprisingly has been hooping pretty consistently. And then when you pick up a guy like Dennis Schroeder, you have a passable secondary guy. So when Cade goes to the bench, we have a guy that's able to pick up the slack and actually keep up the effort that this team has been pushing forward, right? And not to mention where you have a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, because keep in mind, Malik Beasley has been shooting the ball crazy. I'm pretty sure he was second this year in 3 points made. And there's been a stretch that he was going on where he was averaging. Hold on, let's look at how much he averages here. Yeah, Malik Beasley averaged 16, 2, and 1 this year, where he's coming off the bench and giving you that. That's come on, that's good. That's really, really good. So seeing the way that this team is able to everyone has been able to play their role so significantly that it's making me realize that this team actually has a chance to win this first playoff series. And just to mention real quick, Tobias Harris has been outplaying Paul George this year. It's been a dastardly scene, hasn't it? It's been a dastardly year. And yeah, so if I was to put who would I believe is winning this playoff series between the Knicks and the Pistons, I really hope it's Knicks in 5. It's probably gonna be Knicks in 6. I'm gonna say Knicks in 6. It's gonna be a good series. But if you got this far, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, that was I'm out. I'm tired. But all right, y'all, we out.